The Putin regime, according to Yuri Yarym-Agayev, is approaching its final phase. He believes the war in Ukraine has settled into a deadlock that offers the Russian leader no path to the victory he needs to preserve his authority. Putin's hope that Donald Trump might someday pressure Ukraine into surrendering is steadily fading, leaving him with no external rescue. Yarym-Agayev suggests that Putin himself now seems aware of this looming end, seeing threats, conspiracies, and attempts at coups everywhere, as if preparing for the inevitable collapse of his rule. He argues that Russia may soon face a moment similar to the late 1980s, when the Soviet Union was on the verge of disintegration and different political forces were competing to shape the future. Today, he says, people who call themselves opposition leaders are again imagining themselves at the helm of the state. They are discussing what kind of political system Russia should adopt, parliamentary or presidential, and whether the country can remain united or will break into separate regions. However, Yarym-Agayev believes that Russia's core problem is not political or economic but moral. He says that post-Soviet reforms were doomed from the start because they attempted to change systems without addressing the deep ethical crisis within society. According to him, without moral regeneration, no democratic institutions, no market economy, and no respect for human dignity can take root. He traces the origins of this decline back to the erosion of Russia's moral foundations even before the Soviet era. The cultural movement of the Silver Age, he argues, placed beauty above ethics and prepared the ground for moral relativism. This shift eventually made it easy for the Soviet intelligentsia to justify lies and repression in the name of supposedly noble goals. After the fall of the Soviet Union, the country rushed into elections and economic reforms but ignored the need for moral renewal. Yarym-Agayev notes that capitalism cannot function in the absence of honesty, yet most people in Russia viewed capitalism as simply another form of deception. As a result, the system they built replicated corruption rather than fostering freedom or responsibility. The reforms of the 1990s, he argues, failed to lift Russia out of its crisis. Instead, they intensified it. People began to treat dissidents as irrelevant dreamers, while former KGB officers were increasingly celebrated as strong leaders who could impose order. This moral inversion eventually led to the rise of Vladimir Putin, a former KGB agent who became the ultimate symbol of the ethical void taking shape in Russian society. According to Yarym-Agayev, Putin has transformed corruption, intimidation, and falsehood into instruments of state policy. The wars he has initiated, especially the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, reflect not only political ambition but also the culmination of a long moral collapse. The aggression against Ukraine, he says, serves as a mirror of the degradation that has taken root in the Russian state and within much of society. In his view, Putin and his inner circle are products of this decay, people who speak of traditional values while practicing the exact opposite of genuine morality.